Hey guys and gals, it's time for another This Week in Appalachian History, and I know what you're asking yourself. You're saying, hey, is that guy got on a Ric Flair t-shirt? Well, yes, this guy does have on a Ric Flair t-shirt, and he's asking a question all of you should be asking yourself. What's causing all this? Woo! I love Ric Flair. I have a love for him that passes all human understanding, and all the Four Horsemen really, but big pro wrestling fan when I was younger. I can't stand the stuff now, but well, I don't know. I watch a little bit of the AEW, but MJF's pretty cool. Chris Jericho, like him. Moving right along, has nothing to do with anything. Well, I'll get on a tangent on wrestling one of these days, and it'll take off for about 30 minutes. So until then, let's move right along. I just love looking at that myself. I got to see myself in the camera. What's causing all this? It came in the mail. It was one of those Instagram purchases that I did like 4th of July. It came on, and an ad hit me, and I don't know what happened. It was on sale, and next thing you know, my credit card was out, and I got this yesterday in the mail, and I couldn't wait to wear it. Best purchase I've made in a long time. Well, this week's history lesson is coming in hot and fresh, and I say that for a very, very good reason. July 13th, 1937, one of the greatest days of my life. Little did I know it back then, because I wasn't born, but I had the happy knowledge to find out that is when the first Krispy Kreme opened. It opened in the Old Salem section of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, when a man named Vernon Rudolph, he had bought a secret yeast-raised donut recipe from a French chef in New Orleans, I guess is how it said. He opened the store in a rented building there in Old Salem, and he soon had a lot of people walking up off the streets. They smelled the scent of those wonderful, amazing donuts, and they came up trying to buy those hot and fresh off of him. He ended up knocking a hole in the wall of the building so he could sell them directly to people who walked up off the sidewalk. And after that, of course, it just exploded. He ended up having, well, now it has 700 plus stores in the U.S. Also, there's in Asia, Mexico, Middle East, Puerto Rico, and Turkey. So I'm not the only guy that likes it hot and fresh. I don't know if I can continue after this. What more do you need to know about this week? Krispy Kreme, my favorite joint. But we'll keep going. I owe it to you folks. July 13th, 1945, in Williamson, West Virginia, a man was born by the name of Robert Doc Fogelsong. He would go on to be a 4-star general, so I should say General Robert Doc Fogelsong. He had a PhD in chemical engineering from West Virginia. Then he went into the Air Force, where he became a 4-star general. And after he retired from military service, he became the president of Mississippi State University. And he was also director for Massey Energy. I'm not sure if he'd be proud of that now or not, but the coal operation, infamous for Don Blankenship. But Doc Fogelsong, I love people like this that have accomplished so much. You know, obviously a super bright guy that in the military, education, just a very well accomplished guy who makes our area look good. The pride of Williamson, West Virginia, I guess we could say. July 13th, 1895, Bradley Kincaid was born in Garrard County, Kentucky. He's a songwriter, folk singer, and radio personality. And he got his start where he really became famous was the National Barn Dance in Chicago, Illinois, which was, of course, a precursor to the Grand Ole Opry and that type of thing. He was a prolific songwriter of folk and country songs, and he's actually inducted into the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame. He's a member of the Grand Ole Opry while he was alive, and I love this story about him. It's really the reason I included him in here at all was he gave a young 22-year-old banjo player named Marshall Jones the nickname Grandpa, because Jones used to come into the radio studio for the early morning show. He came in very grumpy, so he slapped him with the nickname Grandpa, and of course the rest is history. You know, it's so funny because I can't imagine, for one thing, I can't imagine Grandpa Jones being grumpy. He seemed like such a sweet, mellow guy, but also to think he got that at 22 years of age, because when I knew Grandpa Jones, I mean, he was an old man. I thought, okay, he's legitimately a grandpa and whatever. It all made sense. But I have to think, honest to God, you got to think, would Grandpa Jones have been Grandpa Jones without that nickname? I mean, would Marshall Jones have been as popular? I kind of doubt it. So we can thank Bradley Kincaid for a good portion of Grandpa Jones's career, at least in my book. Moving on to July 14th, Wallace Wawa Jones, now there's a nickname for you, was born in 1926 in Harlan, Kentucky. And he got the nickname Wawa. His little sister was learning how to speak, and so she couldn't pronounce Wallace, of course, and called him Wawa, and that nickname just stuck with him for the rest of his life. Now, this is one of the most accomplished athletes in the history of the state of Kentucky. As a basketball player, he set the national scoring record at Harlan High School. He was phenomenal in baseball, basketball, and football. In fact, he played all three sports at the University of Kentucky. He was a two-time All-SEC football player. He was a three-time All-American and a four-time All-SEC basketball player. He won 2 national championships as part of the basketball team, and that team went 130 wins and 10 losses during his 4-year stint. So he also won a gold medal as part of the 1948 Olympic basketball team. And he had the very curious thing, how few people in the world can say this. He actually played under Adolph Rupp and Bear Bryant. He played for both of them at the same time, because Bear Bryant, the legendary Alabama coach, of course, he was actually the coach of University of Kentucky's football prior to going to Alabama. His number is retired in both sports, football and basketball, at the University of Kentucky, and he ended up being drafted by the Chicago Bears, but he opted to play basketball in the NBA. He played for the Indianapolis Olympians, a team of which I'd never heard of before. He sadly passed away in 2014 at age 81, I do believe, but he was a heck of an accomplished person. And as you saw from his picture, a handsome man too, so some guys have all the luck, I guess. July 14th, 1933, a man by the name of Franklin Delano, not Roosevelt, but Del Reeves, was born in Sparta, North Carolina, and he was actually named after Franklin Delano Roosevelt, as you can imagine. And he was a country music singer, most known for his novelty songs. He had a string of novelty songs in the 1960s about girl watching, including Girl on the Billboard and The Belle of Southern Belle. And he also had a trucker song, Looking at the World Through a Windshield. But he ended up being a music executive, and he's partially responsible for the signing of Billy Ray Cyrus to a record deal. So I have a hard time forgiving him for that one. No, Del. I don't know. I mean, he's passed away in 2007, so I guess I'll cut him some slack. He actually passed away on New Year's Day, oddly enough. But Del Reeves, accomplished singer and person we can blame for Billy Ray Cyrus's existence in the music scene. July 16th, 1906, a man was born by the name of James Still, and he was a poet, novelist, folklorist. He was actually born in Alabama, but he spent the vast majority of his life in Knott County, Kentucky, near Heinemann, in a 2-story log house which was known as Wolf Pen. He wrote his masterpiece called River of Earth that dealt with changes in Appalachia through the eyes of a family that were divided between subsistence farming and coal mining, which is the story of a lot of people. In fact, my mom's dad and grandmother, my grandfather and grandmother, I want to say that way, they were subsistence farming too. He went to work in the mines during the day and did farming on the side, and pretty rough life. But for that book, he actually shared the Southern Authors Award with the amazing Thomas Wolfe, and Thomas Wolfe's work, You Can't Go Home Again, which most people probably remember a lot more than James Still's work, but that's a pretty great accomplishment there. He passed away in 2001 at the age of 94. Oh gosh, last two I've got. One's depressing and one is kind of me. Let's go with depressing first. I don't want to end on a bad note. Maybe the other one would be a bad note. I don't know. You'll find out. July 18th, 1919, Kimball mine disaster occurred in Kimball, West Virginia at the Carswell coal mine. It exploded, and initial reports listed that 221 men had died. And you can imagine how devastating that was, but thank God a rescue team went in and ended up digging out and saving 215 of those miners. So ended up still with the death of 6 miners, but could have been a lot worse and looked like it was going to be a lot worse than it ended up being. So that was, I wouldn't say a happy ending to it, but a much better ending than anyone could have anticipated after giving the initial news. So, okay, on July 18th, 1928, Helen Ruth Elam was born, and if that name doesn't ring a bell, maybe this one will. She's known as Battywinkle, and she was born in Hazard, Kentucky, and apparently she was an internet sensation. She really took off at the age of 85. I guess it was her granddaughter posted a video or picture of her onto Twitter, and she kind of just took off from there. And she has a logo called Stealing Your Man since 1928. So she's actually became popular for her humorous posts and her eccentric clothing. Matter of fact, I just saw a picture of her wearing a bikini at, God only knows how old is she is now, 1928. My math is no good, but she's in her 90s, I guess. And she still lives in Knoxville, Tennessee. She has 172,000 followers on Twitter, but I don't think she's all that active on there anymore. But she has 3.5 million followers on Instagram, which is insane, including Rihanna and Drake. Yes, Drizzy follows Miss Batty Winkle, so that's something to brag about right there, I guess. If you don't know who Drake is, I can't help you, because I like Drake. My son just turned 17, actually today as I'm taping this, and he's got me into this rap and hip-hop stuff, and I don't know. I know I shouldn't like it, but if you listen to enough of anything, you'll start liking it, I guess. So that is the end of this week in Appalachian history, and I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. And maybe it'll be hot and fresh, too. You never know.